In John chapter 14, verse 6, Jesus says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me." Jesus' disciples believed what he said. That's why in the book of Acts, they said there's no other name under heaven by which we must be saved. And they were willing to suffer and die for their convictions. People don't suffer and die for some idea that's unimportant. Notice Jesus didn't say, "I am a way," or "a truth," or "a life." He said, "I am the way, the truth, the life." And Jesus' disciples believed him. That's why they were willing to go to their deaths rather than compromise their convictions. That idea, though, is not popular today. People look around at the different world religions and they say there's nice people out there doing nice things. They're sincere people. They've got different good reasons for what they believe. And a lot of people will say, all the world's religions are true. They're all basically saying the same thing, but they're just expressing it in different ways. There's an old Hindu-Indian story. Maybe it's not Hindu, but it's Indian. It's about a king who is in a palace. And he had 3 blind men in this palace. And one day he brought this elephant in, and he told these 3 blind men to go up to the elephant, to touch it, and to tell him what the elephant was like. So one blind man, he goes up to the side of the elephant, and he's touching the side of it. He says to himself, "Oh, an elephant is like a wall. It's flat and it's smooth." Another blind man, he goes up to the ear of the elephant. He touches the ear, and he feels, and he says, "Oh, an elephant is like a leaf. It's floppy and flexible and flat." And the third blind man, he goes up to the tail of the elephant. And he feels the tail, and he says, "Oh, an elephant is like a rope. It's long and flexible and maybe a little stinky." So all these 3 blind men go back up to the king, and they start telling the king what an elephant is like. And they hear that they're not saying the same things. And they see that, or they hear that they're contradicting each other, or they seem to be contradicting each other. So they start disagreeing and arguing with each other and telling each other, "You're wrong." The other one says, "No, you're wrong. I know what an elephant is like." And they're about to break out in a fist fight as best as blind men can do, when the king suddenly intervenes and he says, Gentlemen, you think you're all disagreeing with each other. You think each of you has the exclusive truth. But what you don't realize is that all of you have part of the truth. And if you would just stop fighting with each other and disagreeing with each other and start listening to each other, you can have a full, complete picture of what an elephant is really like. That story is often used as an illustration of the world's religions. You've got Muslims over here, and Buddhists, and Christians, and Hindus, and each of them are claiming to have the exclusive truth. And they're all disagreeing with each other, and sometimes they fight with each other. But according to this story, what they need to realize is that all have just part of the truth. And instead of fighting with each other, they need to start listening to each other. And together they can have the full, complete truth. Now, I don't know about you, but this story certainly has a lot of appeal to it. I mean, we have so much warfare and fighting in the world today. We need to have more peace and tolerance. And this type of story seems to promote that peace and tolerance that we need in the world. But there's still one very important question we need to ask about this story. And that is it true? Is it the right way for us to think of the world's religions? You see, I can tell another story. In this other story, there's also a king in India in a palace. There's 3 blind men. And there's also an elephant that comes into that palace. And the king also tells the 3 blind men to go and touch the elephant. But they're blind. They don't even know where the elephant is. The elephant's over there, but the first blind man, he walks this way. And as he's walking along, he trips and falls into a sandbox. And he starts feeling the sand in the sandbox, and he says, "Oh, an elephant is like sand, small and granular." And the second blind man, he also doesn't know where to go. So he starts walking off in this direction, and he walks into a thorn bush. And he's getting hurt by these thorns, and he says, ow, an elephant is like needles. It's prickling me. The third blind man, though, he actually walks towards the elephant. And he touches the side of the elephant. He touches the legs. He touches the tail. He goes around. He touches the top, the bottom, the trunk, the tusks. And then finally, all three blind men come back to the king. And they start describing what an elephant is like to the king. And again, they realize they're disagreeing with each other. They realize they're going to break out into fights. And the king suddenly intervenes and he says, gentlemen, gentlemen. And then the king wants to tell them they all have part of the truth. But there's a problem, because they don't all have part of the truth. Two of these gentlemen are just flat out wrong. They have no idea what an elephant is like because they never even made contact with the elephant. It's the third gentleman that really knows what an elephant is like. Does he have perfect knowledge? No. But he is the most complete understanding. And the first two guys, they're just wrong. So now we have two stories here. Which of these stories is the right way to think of the world's religions? Well, the truth is, you can't answer that question simply by telling the stories. What you have to do is look at what the world's religions teach. And although many people think the world's religions all teach the same thing, it's just not true. The world's religions answer three fundamental questions. What is the nature of ultimate reality? Is it one God or many gods? What is the problem with the world and the solution to the world? Is it sin? Is it karma? Is it a lack of enlightenment? And what happens after we die? What is our destiny, both individually and as all of humanity? These are three important questions that all of us need to grapple with in life. And the world's religions answer these questions differently. No two religions answer the questions in the same way. And that's why all the world's religions cannot be true. It's nice to think that, but it just doesn't reflect reality, because reality doesn't allow two ideas that are contradictory to both be true at the same time and in the same sense. Some religions teach that there's one God. We should worship that one God alone. Western religions, Islam, Judaism, Christianity teach that. Eastern religions like Hinduism and Buddhism says you can worship one God or many gods or millions of gods. It doesn't matter. Some religions say that we go through cycles of reincarnation after we die. But Christianity says in the book of Hebrews that it's destined for man to die once and then to face judgment. Islam says that Jesus existed, but he never died on a cross and certainly didn't rise from the dead. But the Apostle Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15 that if Christ did not die and did not rise again from the dead, your faith is futile. All of Christianity is dead wrong because everything is built upon that historical event. All the world's religions simply cannot be true. It's wishful thinking. We can promote peace and harmony in the world through different ways and different means, and of course, that's a good thing. But if we're claiming that all the world's religions are true, then we're living in a fantasy land. That's simply impossible. Now, some people hear this and they'll say, yeah, okay, I can understand that, I can appreciate that. But how am I supposed to know which religion is true? Look at all these religions around the world. They've got sincere people, they've got nice people, they've got the reasons to believe. How am I, average person that I am, how am I supposed to know which religion is true? And a lot of people want to throw up their hands and say, I can't decide. I'm just neutral on all this, right? I can't be sure that any religion is wrong, but I can't be sure that any religion is right either. So I'm just going to live in this neutral world. I'm going to be undecided. But you see, that is one option that is not available to us. We cannot be neutral when it comes to the world's religions. Why? Because they don't just call us to believe certain things, but they call us to live our lives a particular way. Christianity says that we are to worship God alone, give him our highest thanks, our highest praise, our highest honor. And we either live our lives doing that or we do not. But there's no middle ground. There's no neutrality there. There's some things in life that we can really be neutral about. Let's say someone comes to me and says that there is a black hole in the middle of some far-off galaxy. Well, can I be neutral about that? Yes, absolutely. I don't really know. I don't really care. And I don't have to decide whether this black hole exists because it doesn't affect my life in any particular way. Unless I'm a scientist studying this distant galaxy, it really has no impact on me, and I can legitimately be undecided about whether this black hole exists. But there's other things in life we cannot be neutral about. I've never asked a girl to marry me, but one day I hope to do that. And I'm sure when that day happens, it'll be very romantic. I'm sure she's going to love it. I'm sure I'll be very well prepared, very romantic occasion, get down on one knee. Girls apparently like that. I'll have the ring ready. I'll look into her eyes and I'll say, "Will you marry me?" Now imagine she looks back at me and she says, "Maybe." I think, "Maybe? What do you mean, maybe?" She's like, "Well, I'm undecided." "How can you be undecided about this?" "Oh, do you need some time to think about it?" She's like, yes, that's right. I need to think about it a little bit." I say, "Oh, well, okay. It's not quite what I was hoping for, but she didn't say no, so okay." "Well, maybe a week. You want to think about it for a week?" She said, yeah, think about it for a week. Okay. A week later, come back, ask her again, "Well, will you marry me?" She's like, "Well, I'm undecided. I'm neutral." "You thought about it for a week. You haven't decided yet?" She's like, No, I haven't decided." "Okay, well, what about another month to decide?" She likes that. So she goes away, she thinks about it for a month. Come back, "What's your decision? What have you decided?" She says, "Oh, I'm still neutral. I'm undecided. I'm not saying no, I'm not saying yes, I'm just neutral." "Okay, well, maybe you need more time to think about it." Yeah, she needs more time. So we wait 6 months. Still neutral, still undecided. A year later, she says, "Well, I'm still neutral. I'm not saying no. Please understand, not saying no, but I'm just neutral on this question." 2 years later, still neutral. 10 years, 30 years. On her deathbed, "Will you marry me?" "Not saying no, I'm just neutral." Now let me ask you, is she really neutral? The answer is obviously no. She can say she's neutral all she wants. But the truth is she has decided. Why? Because she's lived her life a particular way. And just by the fact that she did not say yes, she did not go down the aisle, and she did not live with me as wife and husband, shows that her answer is no. It doesn't matter what she says. Her answer is no. And she shows that by the way she lives her life. The same thing is true for us in respect to God, in respect to the Christian God. We will live our lives a particular way. And unless you live your life giving your highest thanks, your highest praise, your highest honor, in other words, in giving your worship to the one true and living God, your answer is no. You have decided that either Christianity is not true or you're going to do one of the worst things possible, fail to worship God as he deserves. You cannot live a life of neutrality. And that's true not just of Christianity, that's true of all the world's religions. Because all the world's religions call you not just to believe certain things, but to live your life a particular way. And if you don't live your life in that way, you are showing by how you live that you believe the religion is false. People who claim that all the world's religions are true almost always really believe that all the religions are false. They've decided every single one of them is wrong, is untrue. You will have to decide in your life what you're going to believe. You cannot be neutral. And as you think about how you're going to live your life, I invite you to consider Jesus' words in John chapter 14, verse 6. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me.